And it looks like we're live. Yay! Let me know how this goes, whether the audio and the video are working well, somebody, because we're on. It's winter time. It sucks. I got my Vegemite hat, and I'm going to do 2 hours of this just to annoy the planet. So, middle geek girl, is the audio okay? Just waiting for it to come through on the chat. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to do. I've got a big lot of very cheap movies that I got haul. I said something. Thanks for that. Yeah, the Vegemite hat is great and it's lovely and warm. I love the Vegemite hat. Okay, the audio is okay. So we're going to go. So yeah, I've got a whole bunch of cheap things I picked up in the physical media space. We're going to talk about Disney censoring the French Connection, which has cheesed off a lot of people in the physical media groups, and rightly so. And I'm also going to do a lot of stuff about what I've been watching that I haven't mentioned on the channel. Fire Moon 42. Yeah, I've been watching Deadlock. I'll talk about that because Deadlock is the best. Hi Lee. Hi Fire Moon 42. Hi Donna Pass Whiskey. Let's see who else has been on the chat. John P. And yes, of course, as soon as I start recording, I'm going to start coughing. So it's 7 o'clock in the morning here, and the sun isn't up yet. The sun doesn't rise at the moment until almost 8 o'clock in the morning, which for me really sucks. In the ideal world, were the world organized the way I want it to be, the sun would rise at about 5:30 in the morning, and it would set about 9 p.m. all year round, and it would be warm all year round. So I need to find a planet where that happens because I don't like the early sunsets and the late sunrises of winter. When I was working, it really depressed me because I'd be going to work in the dark and I'd be coming home in the dark, and that stuff really doesn't do well with me. Hellfeeder, great. You're a big fan of the arse hat. Yeah, the arse hat's great. The Australian Research and Space Exploration hat is great. I keep looking out for hats. If anybody wants to send me hats, there is a mailing address in the description of most videos. In fact, all videos. So if you find any groovy hats you want to send me, I'm happy to accept them. Hi, Franny. Yep. So yeah, it looks like things are going. So yeah, I've been out and about finding some physical media because there's a lot of people who are ditching physical media at the moment. Hi, FG. There's a lot of people ditching physical media at the moment, which is kind of weird. Donna Pass Whiskey really need an arse hat. I will post a link to where you can get the arse hats. In fact, let me find it for you now before I start waffling on about physical media. I will find a link for the arse hats. Here we go. Found it because I've got brilliant Google foo. There's a link for the arse hats. Spend summer in Northern Europe and winter in Argentina. Job sorted. Yeah, that'll work. But the channel does well. I'll consider that. There you go, Donna Pass Whiskey. There's your link there. But yeah, I kind of like summer. Were I incredibly wealthy, I would have a house somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere where there aren't too many guns, and another one down here, and kind of just enjoy it all year round. But yeah, so basically, a lot of people are ditching physical media here in Australia. I don't know why, possibly because people are renting and storage is a problem when you get to a certain stage of physical media acquisition. And so a lot of people are ditching it. There's a lot of really ordinary DVDs and Blu-rays in various charity stores and also various markets. There are tons and tons of them, and they're really ordinary. So you've got like Judd Apatow comedies, you've got seasons of Friends and Girls and 30 Rock and all sorts of things like that. So all of the stuff people were collecting 10, 15 years ago for no good reason, which are all now on streaming, they're all throwing it into the market. And we end up with all of these charity stores and tables at various markets full of really middle of the road kind of discs. So The job when I'm out looking for them, and I usually go to a couple of places. Yesterday, I went 80 kilometers up to Ballarat, where the Eureka Stockade happened, and Eureka Stockade was a couple of famous movies. And went to Ballarat Market, which is open on Sundays, and found a few interesting things. But normally I go to our local market at Laverton, which is held in a disused drive-in movie place, which is very cool. I can usually find a few things there, and also charity stores and things like that. Good morning, Film Nuts 79. Yeah, so I picked up a few things, so I'm just going to go through them. I'll talk to chat while I'm doing it, but I pick all these up for like a couple of bucks each. I didn't spend more than about $3 on anything, and that's kind of cool. But I kind of filtered what I bought rather than just buying everything that's there. And I found one thing. Actually found the first Australian movie to win an Academy Award, and that one's a bit of a unicorn because it's not really widely known and it's not really on anyone's radar. So that's in this list as well. But I'll start with the ordinary stuff. I had the first two movies in this set. Ken says, I hope Vegemite is paying you for the advertisement or giving you a lifetime supply. No, they're not. But then in Australia, we've got a civic duty to promote Vegemite. It's actually got a lot of vitamins in it. It's great. It goes really well in gravies. If you put it like a teaspoon of Vegemite into a gravy you're making, you get this really big surge of umami taste. So Vegemite's great for that. So anyway, this is the third one. I got the first two in the series, and I got this on Blu-ray. I think, yeah, this is definitely an English one. I got Transporter 3 with the Statham. Statham's got a new movie coming out, The Meg 2, The Trench. Now, if you saw the first Meg, it's a balls-to-the-wall action film, which I recommend. And the Transporter series isn't too bad. I think Luc Besson was the producer on these. So I got the third one on Blu-ray. I'm quite happy. That cost me like $2, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, middle-aged good girl squealing because her big go-to in cinema is shark movies. Any movie with a lot of sharks in it, she is in her comfort zone. So anyway, the first thing I got is Transporter. And I found another Statham movie, which isn't that great, but it's worthwhile. It's an action film. Filmed in Sydney here in Australia, my hometown. The remake of The Mechanic, starring Jason Statham and Ben Foster. The original Mechanic is much better, the one with Charles Bronson and Jan Michael Vincent. But the remake is watchably. It's action. It's some great stunt work and things like that. So I kind of went on a binge for those kind of action movies. But I'm trying to find either a DVD or a Blu-ray of the original Mechanic with Bronson, which is really good Charles Bronson. His character has a bit more complexity than most of the Bronson movie characters of the time. And it's a definite recommend for me. If I can find a copy, I'll review it on the channel because that movie is one of the hidden gem action flicks of the 1970s. Okay, it says Statham is an icon to bald men and also Cockneys. But anyway, let's move on. This is a sequel. I don't have the original, but this is too much to miss out on. I picked this up for like $2 at a place called Cash Converters, which is a pawn shop, basically. They have one locally here. And it's worth me going through occasionally and seeing what they've got amongst all the Judd Apatow movies. And I hear this is good. I've seen the first one, which is very, very good. Monsters, Dark Continent. About a whole bunch of alien monsters invading the Earth and how people are handling it. I'm going to check out the two Monsters movies again. I may well do a video about them too if they hold up. But Monsters 2 Dark Continent in a slipcase as well. So this is quality. For $3, I'm going to give that a go. That's the interesting thing about everything being so cheap. If you look around, there are things you wouldn't buy if you were paying $10, $20 for. But when you're paying $1 and $2 and $3 for them, you're going to give them a go because they might be worthwhile. If they're not, you can always pass them on to a charity store or something, and you're not really much out of pocket if you do that. But I'm going to give that one a go. This one's actually an Australian pressing by Madman Entertainment, which is the Australian DVD distribution company who don't send me review copies. So if Madman ever want to send me review copies, I'm more than happy to accept them. Kane says, I watched Beyond the Black Rainbow yesterday. Have I seen it? No, but it's on my radar. I really want to check that one out. I know little about it, but I think I want to go in cold on that movie. But I haven't seen it at the moment, so I'm going to write that down on my list when I locate the pen, which is here, to take it to the top of the list. See, this is great content when I just look down and write things on a pad. Okay, moving on. This one I actually paid full price for. I'm collecting the Marvel movies because I have, my Google just went off and started talking about movies for some reason. Uh, I think AI has taken over my Google speaker. It's a worry. But anyway, I got this because I'm collecting the Marvel movies. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't think it's great. Google does love me. Google and I have this thing going on that it's like me and Mrs. Jones, the Billy Paul song, except with Google. I think AI wants to sex me up or something. But anyway, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I got the 4K on that because it's got the Blu-ray as well, and it was like $5 more than buying the original one. This one's going to be a little bit of a kind of mark, like a milestone in Marvel because this is a movie where they set up Jonathan Majors as King the Conqueror, and then they found out that Jonathan Majors is a person who is, I've got to be careful how I say this, unkind to women. So they're going to have to re-gear King the Conqueror, but this is the one movie probably where they're going to have Jonathan Majors as King the Conqueror. So interesting waypoint in the Marvel saga. This one. The other thing I found out too is that there are some accusations about Tenochtitlan, the guy who played Namor in the second Black Panther movie. So there are some problematic guys that Marvel is hiring to play iconic characters, and that's going to be an interesting thing as well. This one I picked up at Leverton Market for $1, which is kind of good. I'm not a big Disney guy. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fantastically big Disney guy. I like early Disney. I like Three Caballeros and Saludos Amigos and some of that early stuff. But the kind of cultural enforcement of Middle America that Disney does to this very day, and I will talk about that a little bit later, is something that I find a bit repugnant. But this one is a classic old Disney film. Blu-ray and DVD, I got this for $1, remember? Itchy dollar. Fantasia, which I didn't have in the collection and is worthwhile seeing because there's some very interesting and very groundbreaking animation in it as well. Could have done without Mickey Mouse being in it. I think it would have been stronger without Disney putting their iconic little mouse in there. We think about Mickey Mouse as this. Mickey Mouse has no personality at all. Mickey Mouse is bubbly and ebullient, but has absolutely no chill. It's a really weird character that Mickey Mouse has lasted this long when he's simply a blank piece of paper when it comes to characters. And that for me typifies everything I dislike about Disney. The fact that their iconic character, the guy that sits at the top of the Disney pyramid, is totally boring and bland and has absolutely nothing behind the eyes. Donna Pass Whiskey says, I'm sure you'd like a hard copy of Song of the South, if only just to flip it, as I'm sure it's worth a lot to collectors. Yeah, Song of the South, I think it's an important movie from a historical context, and contextualizing a movie as blatantly racist as Song of the South is important. I think it should be released. I think that recognizing the problems of the past is a way of ensuring they don't occur again. And I think Song of the South should be released. It should be on 4K. It should be on Blu-ray. It should be on DVD, but with something up front contextualizing it. And Disney doesn't have the balls to do that. Ken says, at least Donald Duck has a video. Absolutely. Donald Duck is a lot more interesting for me than Mickey Mouse. Donald Duck has poor impulse control. I don't know whether Donald Duck is on the autism spectrum, but Donald Duck's anarchic randomness is the saving grace of that character. It really, middle-aged giggle says, "Don't let Disney hear you. They are everywhere." I don't care. What's this? Come at me, Disney. I don't care. But yeah, I know there are a lot of people, particularly in the movie reviewing area, who are locked into Disney. There are reviewers who live fairly close to either Disney World or Disneyland, and who are very much locked into that. But for me, I don't particularly like Disney. Am I referring to Donald Duck or Donald Trump? I'll go either way. I think that there are aspects of both Donalds which are similar, and I don't want to get too political because I don't mind fighting with people who have an inflated opinion of the ex-president of the United States. But it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to do it right now. But yeah, that's an interesting development in the last week over in America about that particular benighted individual. But anyway, let's move on because I want to get through these. This one I know absolutely nothing about, and it cost me. It says $5 on the label, but I got it for $1. Middle-aged geek girl says it's the same in the adult coloring community. Disney everywhere, and it's so annoying. They're a horrible company with a horrible history. I agree. They've done some good things and they've done some groundbreaking things, but I think that they're kind of an anchor dragging animation to evolve more slowly. But yeah, this one I know nothing about. I know that Susie Eddie Izzard is in it. I know it's got a lot of guns. It says $5 on the label I've got here, but I got it for $1 up at Ballarat. It's 10:16 p.m. in Ireland, if anybody was wondering. KN, I appreciate the sacrifice. I really do. At least you got summertime. And is the sun set yet at 10:16 p.m.? Anyway, this one's called Bullet in the Face. Now, I don't know whether it's a series or a standalone movie. I think it may be a standalone movie. I think it's Canadian, from what I can understand here, because it's got a lot of Canadian actors in it. And it's also got Eric Roberts. Lee Lavery waves from across the Irish Sea. But I know nothing about this one. But at $1, I'm going to give that one a go and just see what it is. Again, it's one of those ones I want to go in cold and just see whether it's worthwhile. It says violent criminal Gunther Volger is a sociopath who hates everyone and everything. That's all I need to know. So has anybody seen that Bullet in the Face? I'm going to give it a go, and I'm also going to get rid of that sticker. But yeah, that one was for $1, which surprised me. Getting Blu-rays for $1 is kind of ridiculous because they are high quality, regardless of the quality of the actual product. But it still amazes me that I can pick up Blu-rays for $1 if I just look around a little bit. This one has a 50 cents. This one was offered for 50 cents. There was a table at the Ballarat market where there was a teenage kid getting rid of his stuff. He was obviously saving up for something. So he was getting rid of a whole bunch of Xbox and PlayStation games and a few movies as well. And he had this on a 50-cent sticker. And I said to him, here, take $2. 50 cents isn't enough. Because I didn't feel good spending only 50 cents to buy Blu-ray off a kid. So I've got Clint Eastwood's Escape from Alcatraz for $2, even though it does say 50 cents down there. Not particularly a big Clint fan, but I've been to Alcatraz, and it's got some good supporting actors in it as well, including Patrick McGowan. And it's directed by Don Siegel. So I know it's going to be a decent action film. Haven't seen it for a very long time. I think I saw it on VHS. But I gave the kid $2 because that was fair, given that it was marked for 50 cents. Let's see what the chat's saying. As they say in the Robocop movies, I'll buy that for $1. Yep. Have I looked at the fellow Aussie channel Explosive Action? He buys tons of those rare action films. No, I haven't, but I will write that down. See, now you've got me distracted to write things down. Explosive Action YouTube. There, I've written it down. Let's have a look here. Just middle-aged girl. Just a friendly reminder, hit the like button if you haven't done already. It helps with the monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, we'll talk about the algorithm and about the channel a little further later. Lee Bronx says, I think I'll buy that for $1 is in the Running Man. It was, I know it definitely was in Robocop, but I didn't know it was in the Running Man. Okay, middle-aged geek girl, I will get you to do all the writing down in future. I apologize. What's the almost cult interest in Vegemite? Vegemite is great. Vegemite is the Australian put it on toast for breakfast thing. Vegemite is what croissants and baguettes are to the French. It's what poutine is to the Canadians. It was actually a yeast extract. Some food scientists back in the 19th century or the early 20th century found out there was a whole bunch of malt and other wastes and barley wastes from beer production in Australia. So there were all of these different waste products from beer, including the yeast that was used to ferment beer. And he went away and he invented Vegemite. He put some salt in there. He found a way to roast it. There's a secret process. The only factory that makes Vegemite is between me and the city of Melbourne. When you go past it in a car driving to the city of Melbourne from here, you can smell the Vegemite from the Vegemite factory. It's somebody turning waste into something useful and something that actually benefits society. And I kind of like that. And the guy who invented it was way ahead of the curve. Robocop puts a rose in every cheek. There's a Vegemite song as well. Lee Bronx says, I think that Dickie Dawson playing a very dangerous game show host says it all. Says it, okay, in Running Man. Ross Gilton says, my instinct was Running Man. I also think the classic Nintendo game called Super Smash TV. Donnie Past Whiskey says, is Marmite similar? I don't like the taste of Marmite. New Zealanders like Marmite. English people like Marmite. But for me, there's something kind of off about the taste of Marmite. It could well be my prejudice and my kind of parochialism. But Vegemite is great. Kane says, the first sort of Vegemite on that Men at Work song. Never got around to trying it. Here's my advice if you do, Kane. Tiny bit on toast. Not much. Use it like you would something like wasabi. Just go gentle with it and get used to the taste before you go into it. Middle-aged geek girl, there's a cat that wants to come into the house. Luna is outside and she's banging on the back door. My mod is good for fixing leaks on the roof. I wouldn't do that because you never know if mice are going to like Marmite. I wouldn't use it for that purpose. Love of Vegemite could be referred to as baroquealism. No, yeah, everyone makes a mistake of layering on bread. It stings when it hits cuts. Yep. Yeah, give it another go. You got to be really kind of light with Vegemite. There are people who slather on their toast, but they're experienced Vegemite eaters who have been eating it since they were 2 years old. It's kind of like getting kids used to chilies. My nephew, whose father is a chef, really likes hot food because he was given Carolina Reapers when he was 3 years old. Ross Gilton, Vegemite's less salty than it used to be. They've actually moderated it. When I was a kid, it was a lot more salty, but these days it is definitely much less so. Moving right along, that's not a movie I got cheap. I did buy this one. It cost me like $15. I've talked about it in a recent video, but I finally found the Warner Archive Collection version of Confessions of an Opium Eater with Vincent Price. I did pay a little bit for it, but I wanted to have a proper physical copy of this movie because it's a mad Vincent Price movie. Did a whole video. Too salty, is that possible? One of my uncles loves vindaloos. I don't mind a vindaloo. We've got less than a kilometre from here. We have 15 Indian food trucks every night who park in a lot, and you can get every kind of Indian food you can imagine. You get vegetarian, you get meat dishes, get chicken dishes, you can get bubble tea, you can get everything, and it's every night of the year, except maybe Christmas for some reason. There's tons of Indian food trucks, and the food is beautiful. Nobody goes to the Indian restaurants around where I live because they all go to the food trucks. It's just a marvelous piece of local flavour that we have here, and I love it. Vegemite to opium. Dave Lister loves Vindaloo. Middle-aged geek girl's a Red Dwarf fan. Seen Renfield, missed it in the theatres, but already on disc soon. I will see it when it comes out on disc, definitely. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Renfield. Looks like it's going to be a bit of fun. Nicolas Cage going off his nut is always fun in the movie, and Renfield is one that I think both of us want to see. So I hope you might. Yeah, who doesn't like Vindaloo? Vindaloo's great. If you got blocked sinuses, Vindaloo will fix it. It's I don't mind Vindaloos. I don't mind tandooris. I even don't mind a buttered chicken now and then. But I tend to like my Indian food with a little bit of guts to it. Now I'm hungry for Indian food. I made the mistake. I haven't had breakfast yet. So, so yeah, I'm not going to have Vindaloo for breakfast. I'm going to keep that for last. This one is actually the American film Airplane, which in Australia had a really weird title, Flying High. And I've got the Flying High on DVD. Middle-aged giggle says, "I want toast." The toaster is near your desk too. So I've got the sequel, Flying High, to the second Airplane movie, the Zucker Abrams Zucker movie, which has Peter Graves, Kent McCord, William Shatner, Raymond Burrs in there, Lloyd Bridges, Chuck Connors, Rip Torn, John Vernon, and Sonny Bono from 1982. Not as good as the original, but it's still a bit of fun. This is one I picked up at Lebanon Market for $1. And yeah, it's good to have both of those movies. I'm happy I got that one. Middle-aged kid girl says, "I want toast." Might take you out for breakfast after this, middle-aged girl. It's a public holiday here, by the way. It's Monday morning, and it's a public holiday here in Australia because it's the official King's birthday, which makes no sense to me because I'm a Republican. I don't think we should have any of that, but we get a public holiday for it. Donna Pass Whiskey says, "Yeah, Nick Cage has been a Dracula fan for a while. He produced Shadow of the Vampire, which for me is the best modern vampire movie. I love Shadow of the Vampire. Me and my mate Jamie saw it in the cinemas when it came out, and there was nobody else in the cinemas except me and him watching Shadow of the Vampire." Yeah, it's not a public holiday in all of Australia. Queensland and Western Australia don't have it. But it's awful. I think Renfield is filmed up 79. It's awful. Renfield's censored in Australian cinemas. I'm so glad that Renfield will be out on Blu-ray uncut with a R18 plus rating, physical media for life. Absolutely. And I think in that case, because it's like that, I will wait for the physical media of Renfield and pick up a copy of it. But yeah, so it's a public holiday because it's the King's birthday. Now, the sooner we're a republic, the better. And we can have a different holiday, but weird. The Addiction from 1995, directed by Abel Ferrara. Definitely yes. And here comes Middle-Aged Geek Girl with my little one. Luna's here. Say hi, Luna. She's going to run away. Ah! So there's Luna. What's with the strange skeleton? Yeah, I'll show you the strange skeleton, Dean. Just be a sec. This I bought last year, and it's great because I'm not going to do much of this, but it plays Yakety Sax, the Benny Hill theme. So that's why we have the skeleton there. Yeah, Luna keeps running in and out of the house because this time of the morning she does. And so Middle-Aged Geek Girl, unfortunately, is on duty at the moment, just letting her in and out. So thanks for that, Middle-Aged Geek Girl. So I've got a few more movies I've got, and there's some good ones in here. I've got a volume of classic comedy, Three Stooges shorts. Now, I didn't have any Three Stooges in the collection, but I got Three Stooges volume, and this has got a lot of them. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 16 Three Stooges shorts in it. It is Halloween all year round in this house, Middle-Aged Geek Girl. But yeah, so I picked up some Three Stooges. Not an enormous Three Stooges fan, but I kind of like it. It was on when I was a kid on TV, and people were complaining at the time about the violence, but it's all cartoony violence. But yeah, so I got the Three Stooges one because I just wanted some Three Stooges shorts in the collection for no good reasons. It's one of those things where you see it and you want it. That one cost me $1 as well. So did this one, even though it's got another $5 sticker on it. This is a classic film based on the play by David Mamet. Was it directed by Mamet? No, it was directed by James. Trying to read that. James Foley. Yeah, poor old Curly. Glengarry Glen Ross, one of the great dramas of the 1990s. Coffee is for closers. Now, I didn't have a copy of Glengarry Glen Ross. What? I'm going to have to get rid of this. I'm going to have to get rid of this because check this shit out. This is disgusting. I'm getting rid of this. Aspect ratio 4:3. It's not even in full aspect ratio. They've cut it down to the TV version. I only just noticed that. So to hell with these people. I will check the disc to make sure that that's accurate. But that's some egregious shit there. Yeah. I mean, it cost me $1, so I'm not too out. I'll put it back into a charity store. But doing that to a movie like that is, yeah, the Alec Baldwin bit. Coffee is for closers. Yeah. Who does that anymore? It's an old disc. I mean, let's see. Does it tell me how old it is? No, it doesn't. But that is deeply egregious shit. And I'm glad that company went bankrupt. Yeah, Jack Lemmon's. Everybody's terrific in that movie. It's not a bad thing. Yeah, propaganda. Yeah, yeah. The Three Stooges were the first people to directly mock Hitler in a comedy. What's Festiniog about? I mispronounced that. I know Welsh ancestry, but I still mispronounced it. But to make up for Glengarry Glen Ross, this one says widescreen on the cover, and again I got it for $1, even though it's got a $5 sticker on it. I don't mind this movie. It's got a couple of actors I really like. Yeah, but this one is worth checking out. From the 1950s, it's got Tony Curtis and Burt Lancaster. Entropies. I don't mind this movie. It's a circus movie. Burt Lancaster used to be in a circus with his mate Nick Cravat, and so he knew this. And it's not a bad little drama. I don't mind this one at all. Used to show up on Saturday afternoons on television here. But I'm glad I got a copy of this because it's a movie that I appreciate. I'm just going to make sure, yeah, so it does say widescreen, so it's not cropped in. I've got to have to be careful when I buy $1 movies just to look at the back a little more than I do. So it's a cautionary tale there. But yeah, even though it's black and white there, the movie's in color. And yeah, it says NTSC, which is kind of unusual because the ratings on it are Australian, and we don't normally have NTSC. Hi, Retro Nerd Girl. But yeah, I definitely want to rewatch that one. And if you haven't seen it, that's definitely a movie worth checking out. That one can go to second last. Picked up a Donnie Yen movie for $1 as well. Now, this is a wuxia movie. I know nothing about it. It's called Hero Among Heroes with Donnie Yen. So it's a 1990s, I think. Let me have a look here. 1990s widescreen wuxia movie. Yeah, Fire Me for you. Burt Reynolds in OK Corral. You just realised how short Dennis Hopper was. Yeah. And there's a great moment in Gunfight at the OK Corral. I'm collecting movie moments for a video I want to do, where Burt Reynolds, during the gunfight, does a diving roll carrying a shotgun. And it's great. He's trying to go from one cover to another. And so he runs out of a little gully and does a diving roll behind cover. And it's a beautiful moment to show just what kind of physically adept actor Burt Lancaster was. It's one of the great moments for me in cinema. But yeah, I'm going to give that one a go. Know nothing about it. I know it's a Donnie Yen movie, and I'm going to enjoy that because occasionally I do like watching wuxia movies because I started watching them in the 1970s. I started watching those kind of Chinese kung fu movies before Bruce Lee died. High Diving Rod sounds like a William Shatner Captain Kirk movie. Yep. Did I ever hear of a film called Waking Fright? I got Waking Fright on Blu-ray. Um, yeah, it's great. There's a new release of that going to come out. Not a Hero 9/11. Yep. Middle-aged geek girl says hi back. She can do that herself. But yeah, so Gunfight at the OK Corral is great. Waking Friday is fantastic. We've actually been to where they filmed that up at Broken Hill in Silverton in western New South Wales, and the town is Broken Hill's a weird town because there's an enormous mountain of mine tailings, which is the kind of iconic feature of the town of Broken Hill. And it's a lead mine there, and so the lead levels in the local population are elevated, which drives them a little bit crazy. It's one of those weird places where that kind of thing happens. I will do a Waking Fright when the new one's released. I think it's coming out on 4K soon, and I may well be getting a copy of it. So I'm going to wait for that for a review, Waking Fright. This one's a double 2-disc set, which I picked up because I don't have either of these movies. I should have, but I don't. And this one again, is it winter? How cold is it? For me, it's cold. I mean, what's the temperature at the moment? Let me have a look at my thing. 11 degrees centigrade. But it does get down to 0 at times. But we're used to warmer weather than the northern hemisphere is, and so it's crazy. Ross Gilton, second-hand physical media has reached insanely cheap levels in the UK. Picked up 28 films this morning from a car boot sale and spent about £8. I can see that. Yeah, it is quite mild at the moment. 7 degrees in Sydney. Film that's 79. Yeah. Yeah, it's all relative. I mean, I've got friends in Darwin who get really cold when it gets down to 19 degrees centigrade because they're in the tropics and they can handle any level of humidity and any level of heat up to about 35, 36 degrees centigrade. It sometimes gets hotter here. It gets up to the highest temperature we've had here that I can recall is 43 degrees centigrade, which is freakishly hot. It's oppressively hot. Lee Bronx says America has its own version of Broken Hill somewhere in Oklahoma. Same unpleasant results. Yeah, Silverton's much better. Silverton's out about 30 kilometers from Broken Hill. It's where they filmed the second Mad Max film and also a couple of scenes from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It's an old mining town, which they've ripped down most of the houses, but there are still some around. There's a Mad Max museum there. There's an iconic pub. They also filmed Razorback there, which is another really cool film I'm going to review in the future because I'm getting some discs of it. But yeah, the more I talk, the more my hats seem to slip up. But this one, I've got a double disc set, and both of these movies are worth having, and I didn't have them for some odd reason. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Hustler, with Paul Newman. Yeah, 46.4 in February 2009, middle-aged kid girl says, I remember standing out waiting for her to pick me up after work, and 10 minutes in the sun just wears you out. It exhausts you, dehydrates you. It's a really oppressive temperature. It's pizza oven temperature. But yeah, The Hustler and Butch Cassidy. Individual discs too, which is really great. Not a Hero 911. Thanks very much. Heard there was a remake coming, but didn't know whether it was true. There was a television movie remake of Waking Fright, which didn't do very well because people didn't need a remake. But it was made by I think it's Channel 10 made it because they're owned by Paramount. And so Channel 10, one of our TV networks here, did a remake of Waking Fright, which was total shit. Oh, look, we can fry an egg on a car bonnet in summertime anyway. Here, Donna Pass whiskey. Not a thing. Hustler is perfect. Can't think of a single thing I didn't like. Absolutely. The Hustler is one of those classic, iconic films. I don't really like The Color of Money, Scorsese's sequel to it, which had Tom Cruise in it, which kind of dropped its credibility level down there. Dean Johnson came in late. They already discussed why Disney 20th Century Fox is censored in Australia. Not really. I'm going to talk about The French Connection being censored. Yeah. I will talk about that, but I'm not talking about it just yet. The other three things I got. This one I got for $1, which I kind of like because it's my kind of anarchic humor. Got all of the young ones, every stupid episode that says down the bottom, on a 3-disc set for $1 up at Ballarat Market yesterday. And I'm happy about that because I like the young ones. I like the anarchic humor of it. And iconic people like Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson and Nigel Planer and Alexei Sale. There's nothing not to love about this. It's great. And it's even got some DVD extras, which is kind of cool. But yeah, picked it up for $1 and totally worth it at that. If you haven't seen the young ones, anarchic 80s humor, really balls to the wall crazy. Like it a lot, and I'm glad I got it. The other thing I got for $1, which is 3 episodes of a TV series that absolutely filmed that 79. Rick Mail was a comic genius. May he RIP. Absolutely. This one I got 3 episodes of because I don't think I want more than 3 episodes of it. Classic early 1960s television western. 3 episodes of The Rifleman for $1 with Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford. Yeah, Millie Skiggle didn't like the young ones. That's a shame because it's fun. I'm going to rewatch those suckers. I remember school warning our parents about the young ones in the 80s. Why would they bother? I mean, really. Yeah, I like the young ones. It's fun, it's silly, it's subversive, and it mocks privilege in a way that all good humour should. Yeah, I look at them. Donnie Yen says, bought the young ones DVD from retail years ago. Alaska gave it to the local public library and they put it in the children's section. Good. Kids need to know about anarchy and about mocking privilege. Putting it in a children's section was a really slick propaganda move. Yeah, absolutely. Not a hero. Excellent Paul Newman films, absolutely. Now, the last one I've got is the first Australian movie to ever win an Oscar. And it won it in the 1940s. It was a documentary called Kokoda Front Line, which basically a guy called Damien Parra, who was a newsreel photographer. Sorry, my throat's going here. He was a newsreel photographer who went to the Papua New Guinea front line during World War II when the Japanese had invaded New Guinea and were heading south towards Australia. And he did a documentary about how the Australian soldiers were fighting the war during World War II. Now, the Japanese did bomb Australia. They bombed Broome and they bombed Darwin, both on the northern part of Australia. And they were going to come south into Australia from New Guinea. But they were stopped by Australian soldiers with the help of Americans. And Kokoda Front Line was such a raw and important documentary. There you go. There's the inside cover. And there's a few of the stills from it. That it really did punch way above its weight. It's one of the best World War II documentaries shot during World War II. And Damien Parra was a really good newsreel photographer. He got the shot, whatever was required. So he went back and they put together Kokoda Front Line. He then went back to New Guinea and got shot by a Japanese sniper and died before he could win the Oscar. Ian Morrill says, I watched Kokoda at the Archives. The Academy Award is there too. Yep. Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, Anthony Diggle, some of it is on as an extra to the Young Ones disc. But yeah, Kokoda Frontline, I've seen it once, but I want to see it again. This one's a unicorn because it got a release, but it didn't get a big release. And it's got that special moment in Australian history, which shows that Australia can do things as well as anywhere else in the world. and particularly at a time when the Australian film industry was diminishing, and in the 1950s it stopped entirely for about a decade. Something like Kokoda Frontline is an iconic and important part of Australian cinema history, and I'm glad I've got it for the collection. I think that if I'm collecting physical media, having something as important to my nation as Kokoda Frontline, and also things like Rabbit Fence and a whole bunch of other iconic Australian films, it's something I feel proud to have part of my collection. So what do we got next? Things I've been watching. So let's do a little bit of that. Let me get up my letterbox so I know what the hell I'm talking about. So there's a whole bunch of things I watch on video and on disc and on streaming that I don't talk about on the channel because I just don't get around to it. But I have watched a bunch of stuff over the last month or two, and I thought I'd talk about it, which I will. Let's have a look here. Won't talk about that. Yeah, we'll start with that. Time Guardian. The Time Guardian, 1986 Australian film. Science fiction, but it's really bad. It is egregiously bad because they had a deal for funding for the Time Guardian in the 1980s with an American studio, which then bailed on it. And so they had half as much money as they should have had for it. It's got Carrie Fisher in it, and she spends most of the movie. Her character is wounded and spends most of the movie just basically at an encampment. It's a weird story about a city from the future that travels back in time, and there's a whole bunch of aliens. It's crazily Star Wars influenced, including having Carrie Fisher as part of the cast. And they've got an Australian actor called Tom Burlinson playing the tough soldier hero. And Tom Burlinson was probably the last person in Australia you'd think to play a tough guy hero. He was atrociously bad in it. I watched Time Guardian because it came up in a box set I had. I thought, do I want to do this for the channel? And I watched it and went, no, it's just shit. So I watched that, and I don't recommend the Time Guardian at all. Let's see what else we got. And Luna is bashing on the door again, by the way. I saw Josie and the Pussycats, the movie of Josie and the Pussycats, which is really kind of interesting. It's got Rosario Dawson, it's got Tara Reid, it's got Evan Rachel Wood playing the Pussycats. It's got Alan Cumming in it. The really interesting thing about Josie and the Pussycats, apart from the fact that it's got his tongue well in his cheek, is you know how you have product placement in movies with Coke cans and other things in the background. Josie and the Pussycats went to 11 with that and thought, we're going to overload the audience with product placement, just a mock product placement. And so there's like 120 different products in the movie, all in the background, where it gets to the point where you just watch it for the product placement. Of course, it's based on the old cartoon series from the 1960s. And Luna's back again. Am I going to have to pick up Luna again, am I? Here we go. Here's Luna. There she is. Stare at the camera, Luna. I'll put it down there. Let's have a good chat. Just read a newspaper. The new Indiana Jones film will probably fall flat. Ticket sales predictions don't look promising. Have I got any take on that, Dean? Yeah, to be honest with you, it's like Star Trek Picard. Star Trek Picard did it right. They did fan service right by honouring it without pandering to it. But the Indiana Jones movie, having an 82-year-old Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones again and then de-aging him for flashback sequences, it's a cash cow. There are certain intellectual properties where what the studio does is it keeps milking that cash cow until the cash cow turns into beef jerky, and then it sells you the beef jerky. And I think this is a case of that. I think that we didn't need another Indiana Jones movie, and there is going to be a certain fan base that likes it. But it's kind of, it feels to me, the vibe I'm getting is that it's one of those ones that people are going to wait till it turns up on streaming. I think it'll turn up on Disney Plus or something. But whether they'll put their bums in a seat in cinema, we're going to see it. Middle-aged geek girl's a big Harrison Ford fan in certain things, so we're going to see it in gold class. But I'm not optimistic about it. I think that it may well fail. It's not like they're going to make there goes Luna there as well, climbing around the man cave. But I don't think it's going to be the success they want it to be, and it may well kill off that kind of folky action hero kind of stuff. It's a weird thing. I mean, I like the fact that it's got Phoebe Waller-Bridge in it. You know, that's going to be fun because she is fun on the screen. But for me, it's not one of the movies I'm looking forward to. Hey Zom, how you doing, brother? Yeah, so yeah, my friend Zom there. But yeah, the Indiana Jones film, I'll actually review it on the channel after I see it and give an honest review of it. But I'm not really. I'm seeing it because I go to see things that Sal likes as well. But it's not a movie that's really grabbing me at this stage. Yeah, it really looks like they're trying to create spin-off possibilities for Indiana Jones. No, we won't see age regression on Terry Talks movies on. There is a thing where it's smooth. My other camera smooths out some of the wrinkles, but I kind of turned that way down. I don't think it's necessary to have that. De-aging, yeah, I don't want to de-age. I was an asshole when I was younger. You could be an almost guest reviewer. Yeah, we can do that. You want to do that, middle-aged geek girl? We'll sit side by side with the Sony ZV-1 Mark II, and we'll go with that. But yeah, the Indiana Jones one's a weird thing. It's a yeah, the Young Indiana Jones series wasn't bad, but that was good for a very specific reason. It was history lessons about 20th century history as well, where young Indy meets all sorts of people like Ernest Hemingway and other people like that. So it definitely had a kind of purpose to it, and that focus was kind of good. Harrison Ford turned up in a cameo in Young Indiana Jones in one episode as well. They're finally going to do it. Kayan says, I'm still waiting for Elf versus E.T. A fight to the death. Neither of those I liked. Because Alf ate cats and I like cats. Yeah, without Shia LaBeouf, it's like ice cream without tomato paste. Yeah. Yeah, that the first three movies were okay. They definitely borrowed from movie serials and action films of an early age. But again, it's kind of like Star Wars. Star Wars borrowed from a whole bunch of better works, most of which were science fiction novels. And Indiana Jones did the same thing. It was a nostalgia thing when they came out in the 70s and 80s because Spielberg and Lucas were playing the nostalgia game for themselves at the time. And so they're kind of photocopies of original works, which is possibly the reason I'm not that keen on them. I like original works. I like movies that speak to the age in which they're in, not speak to the age the movie maker was when they were a kid. And so I'm not that keen on them. But on the other hand, we are going to see it. We're going to go see it gold class and get some nice food to eat with it. It's coming out here in early July, and we're booked in for early July to see that. Hi, Greek, how you doing? Hilary Duff should marry Shia LaBeouf and call herself Hilary Duff LaBeouf. Oh, we're going to do old Johnny Carson jokes, are we? But yeah. So what else have I been watching? Let me have a look here. Got a recommendation for you. A movie called Sisu. Now, Sisu is a World War II movie from Finland. Sorry, I apologize. Finland. I'll talk to that in a moment. But yeah, Sisu is great because it's about this old guy who is gold mining in Finland toward the end, 1944, towards the end of World War II, when the Nazis were retreating from Finland, and they had a scorched earth policy. And he finds a big vein of gold and grabs all the gold and puts it into the saddlebags of his horse and starts heading for the nearest town so he can cash in. A column of Nazi soldiers with a tank, an armored personnel character, and a truck pass him, and they basically, through various bits, they decided they're going to take his gold and kill him. And it's a crazy action film because this old guy was known as the Immortal during the Winter War, which was the war that Finland fought with Russia in 1939 and 1940, and basically held off the Russians. And he was the ghost killer of the Winter War. And so they try to kill him, but they don't. He rides away from them on the horse, and his horse gets blown up by a mine in a minefield, and he falls to the ground in the middle of a minefield and has to fight off all of these Nazis who have a truck full of female prisoners they've grabbed for their own nefarious purposes. And this movie is just so over the top action. Any movie where an old guy uses a landmine as a frisbee to take out a Nazi is a movie I'm going to watch. Sisu is one of the best action films I've seen this year. It is totally over the top, fantastic action, and you should see it. No, it's just after the Winter War, but yeah, yeah, Zom, you got to see Sisu. It's in your sweet spot, mate. It is really a fantastic action film, and it goes to some really interesting places. I'll give you one spoiler. The guy who plays the Immortal, the character, tries to hide from the Nazis by diving into a river, and the Nazis send out a canoe to grab him and to kill him while he's underwater. And the guy grabs one of the Nazis, pulls him down to the bottom of the river, slits his throat, and then takes the oxygen out of his lungs through the slit in the guy's throat so he can stay underwater longer. That's hardcore. It's just one of the most totally over the top action films, but I really enjoyed it. And again, it's one of those movies. Doing bad things to Nazis is never going to get old. Yeah, absolutely. Film Nut 79. Sisu is fantastic. It's the best. Yeah, I like that. It's my kind of action film, and the production looks great. The cinematography is fantastic. The special effects works, some of which is practical special effects, is really over the top. Yeah, Ross Gilton. I want to see Blood and Gold. Haven't seen it yet, but I've got it on my Netflix list. But Sisu is one that you really should check out. Totally worth it and totally crazy. We also saw Cocaine Bear, which I liked, and Middle Aged Geek Girl liked. It's based on that thing where a bear ate a lot of cocaine and died in the 1970s because somebody dropped it out of a plane. But this one takes it really to the nth level. Just give me a moment. It was the last movie Ray Liotta made too, by the way, Cocaine Bear. And it's got Kerry Russell in it as well. Directed by Elizabeth Banks, which is kind of interesting, a female director. But Cocaine Bear is one of those kind of gross out, over the top comedies where this coked up bear just goes to town and starts killing people. It's got a whole bunch of quirky characters in it. And it's a lot of fun. You've got to take it at the level it's at. Weird thing is, it was not filmed in America, it was filmed in Ireland. But not a hero in 9/11. Yeah, it sounds brutal. I'll check it out. Yeah. Dean Johnson says, I would occasionally watch 60 Minutes Australia on YouTube. Is there a favourite Australian program you can enjoy watching? Oh, let's see. What's been on lately? Deadlock. I'll talk about Deadlock now. Deadlock is a series that it's set in Tasmania, and it's made by the Kate McCartney and Kate McLennan, who are fantastic Australian comedians and writers. It's basically like a Scandi noir filmed in Tasmania, and it's about a town where there are men being killed, and it totally subverts the paradigm of murder mysteries. It's 4 episodes in at the moment. They're releasing a new one each week, and it's hilarious. It subverts the paradigm because the police commissioner says, "I hear you found a naked body on the beach," and the female detective, who's a lesbian, says, "Yes, I did," and the commissioner assumes that it's a woman because naked body on the beach. He assumes it's a woman, but it's a man, and he gets disappointed when it's actually a man. And they got the town of Deadlock is really interesting. It's a quirky town. After the kind of timber industry closed there, it became an arts and crafts kind of place. And a lot of the old locals are complaining because the town is about 60% lesbian now, and every second character in the movie in this series is lesbian. Tremendously funny. When a pair of teenage girls find the first body, one of them stumbles over it and then gets worried because a cigarette's fallen out of her mouth and set the guy's dick on fire. It's hilariously funny. Um, Deadlock is worth checking out. It's got incredible amounts of the C word used, which is very consistent with Australian rural culture. And the two people who created the series, Kate McLean and Kate McCartney, had to write a paper to Amazon Prime, who were financing it in America, explaining why the C word was used so much in a cultural context. But Deadlock is a lot of fun. It's a crazy one. Still trying to find out who did the murder because there's a serial killer in the town who's been working over a number of years and has some very specific things. Cutting the men's tongues out is one of them. And they're finding out some more things about the killer as well. Really fun, really interesting, quirky characters, good comedic actors, and good dramatic actors working together in that series. And it should be checked out. Yep, middle-aged girl says Cocaine Bear is what Pooh, Blood and Honey should have been. Yeah, Pooh, Blood and Honey, which I did an unboxing of the Umbrella release of that. Not a good film. Hi, Randall. How you doing, man? Yeah, Deadlock, you got to check out. It's a lot of fun. I know it's on Amazon in the United States. It's actually in about 120 different countries at the moment. This is 1995 to rent. Yeah, what I reckon is wait and buy it. This is one you're going to want to have. Now is the window of our discount test. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really fun movies coming out. I mean, there's Scissor, there's Cocaine Bear, there's Deadlock as a series, and I think there's 8 episodes of it, so it's not going to waste half your lifespan to watch. But try Mystery Road or Jack. I did. I tried them when they came out. In fact, I've talked about Mystery Road and Goldstone, the movies, which came out before the series. But Mystery Road's great. Ivan Sen, who made the movies of Mystery Road and Goldstone, has a new science fiction movie that's just come out. I'm waiting for it to come out on physical media. But a really fine Indigenous filmmaker here. And if you have Channel News says middle-aged geeko. What's the Channel News? Oh yeah. Okay. Let's ditch the what I've been watching for a moment. The channel. Let me have a look here at my YouTube algorithm, which is both the delight and the bane of my life. Let's have a look. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers. I'm trying to find out what I want to do for 10,000 subscribers. I thought up until a few weeks ago that the 10 Luna's doing fine. Yeah, I thought we would hit 10,000 around the end of the year. That's the projections that I had from various different sources. Turns out it's going to happen in less than a month. I've got a sudden surge on the channel when I went to making 3 videos a week. I retired from doing the ABC radio gig I was doing because the new presenter and I weren't simpatico. And so I decided I was going to do an extra YouTube video a week. and that seems to have kicked the algorithm in the balls, and it's starting to really pay off. The views are way up, which means that the ad revenue is up a bit, and we're going to hit 10,000 in a month's time, probably. Thank you, Ferrani, and thank you, 22 Many. So I'm going to work out what I want to do on the channel for that particular milestone, because it's not easy to get to. Many channels aren't able to reach that. And there's an incredible learning curve to get to that as well. And the support of an audience is a big part of that. The encouragement I get from people who watch the videos and comment on them and like them and support the channel on Patreon and all of that stuff makes me want to be better at this, and makes me want to do better at this and show more things. And that is happening. And the channel is being boosted because of that. Have I seen Master Gardener yet? No. How much like not Hero 911? Try eBay for Waking Fright. Definitely, you'll be able to find one. Have a marathon and watch 10,000 movies, Hellfeeder. You're a sadist, aren't you? No, that's not going to happen. D. Lee says, I bought a box of Showa recently. I think I'll be watching that over a long period of time. Yeah, Showa is a hard watch. It really is something that should be. Damien says, 6 a.m. in Perth, having brekkie and a coffee before heading off to work. People off 6, so I'm starting early. Working all day, it's 9 hours. Enjoy all your videos. Thanks, Damien. And Damien's a big supporter of the channel. Hey, Damien, before you go, have you got the disc I sent you? I use this channel for suggestions. Saw the Devil. I saw the Devil was excellent. I'm watching I Saw the Devil in the next couple of days. I haven't watched it yet, but I really like a bit of K horror. Absolutely, Zom. Mystery Road and Goldstone are fantastic. The use of drones in that is really kind of strategic, where they have drone footage of the rural landscape, and it's shot like the dot painting maps that Indigenous people use. I can never say enough good things about Ivan Sen's work on Mystery Road and Goldstone. Randall says, I love science fiction Saturdays. It's not sci-fi, but yeah. Keith F, evening, Terry and Mag. Thank you. But Randall, yeah, science fiction Saturday does well. And it's kind of fun to find things. I want to kind of ration the old things I find, because eventually I'll run out, because they're not making any more science fiction movies from the 1950s. But I'm kind of working that strategy out. Film Night 79 says, Catman in Paris, quite enjoyed it. If you look back in the channel, Film Night 79, I reviewed Catman in Paris a couple of videos ago. The two Korean witch films are most enjoyable, absolutely. Haven't got around to watching the Nines yet, Friday. No, I haven't, but I will. I've got a copy of it, and I will watch it. But at this stage, I haven't been able to. H-Man was the most disturbing film I saw as a kid. Do I have one? What did I watch as a kid that was disturbing? That bit at the start of The Hypnotic Eye, where the woman rubs what she thinks is shampoo on her head, and then dips her head into the gas jets on her stove, and she comes up and her hair's on fire. That freaked me out when I was a kid. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, she had it on the Imprint fan group. Thank you for that. Any amplifying of the scene was great. Damien, not yet. Check post office tomorrow. If Australian Post is the way it's going. Yeah, it'll definitely get to you. I packed it fine. And Damien, by the way, is the person who was on the Patreon. He's a Patreon supporter of the channel. And he got the Blu-ray copy of the Weird Al Yankovic story. I had a spare copy of it that Umbrella gave me. And Damien got that. I'm going to be doing some more giveaways on the channel as well. Maybe I'll save a lot of the things that Umbrella gave me for the 10,000K. That's a thought. I'll just have to play with that idea a little bit and see. But yeah, H-Man's great. But that scene at the start of The Hypnotic Eye, where the woman basically burns her hair and burns her face, in a gas jet really freaked me out when I was a kid because it turned up on TV, late night TV, one of those horror host kind of deals, freaking horror. Yeah, they just did me in. But yeah, Great Wall Road Pepper. Yeah, across the trail since. Yeah, I haven't watched the Great Wall Road Pepper for a long time, but I really should rewatch it. I kind of hit and miss with Robert Redford as an actor. Someone says I loved I Saw the Devil. Good enough recommendation, mate. Absolutely. But yeah, so there's that 10,000 is blowing me away because around the same time as I hit 10,000, and again, this is mind blowing, and it's something that's unprecedented in my life experience. Around the same time, the channel will have had 1.5 million views of my videos. And that's the bit that blows me away. 10,000 subscribers is fantastic, but 1.5 million views of my videos, that's a reasonable size city. And the mind can't encompass 10,000. You can see 10,000 people, but your brain doesn't really register it. And 1.5 million is at the next level above that. And I think it's crazy that that's happened. And you got to remember that for most of my life, doing this was impossible. Starting a channel with videos and talking about movies in a kind of broadcast format isn't something that normal human beings who weren't large companies could do. And I never underestimate the wonderfulness of living just at this moment in history where we can communicate in this manner at this level. It really is something different and something wonderful. Let's see. The Awful Dr. Orloff the other day, terrible but watchable. Yeah, it definitely had a lot of influence from the Sun Visage. If you haven't seen Eyes Without a Face, the Georges Franju movie, it's one of the iconic horror movies, and you should see Eyes Without a Face. Dean Johnson says, all those subscribers and views and no merch. Merch is what's going to happen after 10K. I'm not sure exactly how I want to do it. There are a lot of kind of merch businesses that don't play fair to the person selling the merch. So I'm going to have to do some brainstorming and some research on that before I do merch. Dean Johnson, Terry goes for reverse merch. Yeah, I will get merch at some stage. And maybe I'll start small with things like stickers. But I really want to carefully do that because I want it to be worthwhile for me and I want it to be value for the person buying the merch. And that's something that I'm going to have to do quite carefully in order to not do it wrong and do it in a way that isn't giving value to the people who buy the stuff. Merch beanies is a possibility, definitely. And I may be able to do that. Like that's the problem too. Also, I've got to post whatever merch there is across the planet, and I've got to kind of find a way to do that strategically. Merch suggestion: feature Luna. Luna's a possibility for merch. We can look into that. But can you write that down for me, middle-aged geek girl, please? But yeah, we'll get there with the merch. But for me, the important thing is to keep the channel going and work through those other things like merchandise. And again, this isn't something I have any experience with. It's something I'm going to have to learn. But I'm happy to do that. Thank you, not a hero. Yeah. I'm going into a new realm. When I hit 10K, this is becoming some serious stuff. And it takes me into a new realm where I'm looking at merch. I'm looking at ways that the channel is going to be great. Eventually, if at some stage I make enough money from the channel, which I'm nowhere near making, that there are going to be tax ramifications for it. I'm going to have to look into that. I may have to register a business. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to happen here, which none of you need to necessarily know a lot about, but I need to deal with. which is going to make it kind of interesting. Yeah, middle-aged geek girls learning canvas. She can design stuff. But yeah, it's a. Um, hang on, let me just adjust the camera down a bit because I've got myself a bit more comfortable. Hang on, let me just. There we go. There's a signal I've got to give to the camera. Hang on. Sounds like I'm doing a treaty with a First Nations American person when I do this. But yeah, let's try this hand, see if it likes this hand better. Movies and candy, death and taxes, yeah. Let be what it is. Hang on, I'll just zoom it up a bit. There you go. Come on, you bastard. And it's gone mad now. Camera's gone mad. Come here, you mad bastard, everything. There we go, that'll do. Let's come back to that. So we'll let it be that. Yeah, the I come in peace signal. What are you doing? The camera, I'm not doing anything. The camera's doing that. So I've got to kind of signal for it to stop doing it. Yeah, the AI has taken over on the camera, which is weird. I'm scared to move now. But yeah, let's let that be what it. Hang on, let me just see if I can come here, you fucker. I've got another thing I can do with this. Let me just do that. This camera's gone crazy. Colossus of Auburn project. No, it hasn't taken over any missiles yet, but that's definitely a possibility. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wear this for the rest of the stream, I think. Let's see if it come on. Register that, you bastard. So it moves when I move now, which is kind of mad. But yeah, if I sit very still, I should be okay. Now the finish I don't mind about. Maybe my head's a freaky shape. There's a light on top of the camera, which tells me when it's going to stop doing it. And it's not going to stop. So to hell with that. That's put me totally off. That has put me totally off. Okay, let's switch to the static shot, go virtual. Nah, I'm going to have to wear this off. This is cheesing me off. Let's try this. There. That's it. I actually touched the camera on the touch screen. And it's stabilized. See? Skynet has not got the best of me yet. I didn't do anything. It did it itself. Okay, moving on. Disney has censored The French Connection, the William Friedkin movie with Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider. What they've done basically, I watched The French Connection. I've got it on Blu-ray. I've actually got both French Connection movies on Blu-ray. And I noticed this scene when I watched it. And I thought, this is a character scene. This is showing Gene Hackman's character, Popeye Doyle, being the kind of asshole cop that he is. In the second movie, he kind of gets an awakening when he's in France. But in the first movie, he is a New York street cop of a certain era. And while he's hassling some drug dealers in a black bar in Harlem, he drops the N-word because a lot of people in the 1970s did that, particularly cops trying to hassle people. And Roy Scheider's character calls him out on being so rough on people. But Gene Hackman does use the N word in context to show the kind of random, my way or the highway cop that he is. Disney, when it released the movie in a bunch of different ways, censored out that N word and took that bit out and changed Friedkin's movie on a character beat. Now, this is an important character beat for the character. It shows who he is and why he is the way he is, and why he is so determined to stop the French Connection. And a lot of people on the physical media groups and a lot of YouTubers who are invested in physical media have complained about that because it shows why physical media is so important. Yeah, Timothy, he does. He uses it to get his snitch out of the room. And so physical, the weird thing is that people like Heath Holland over at Serial at Midnight brought this to people's attention, and his tweet went viral about it. Because this is what people who like physical media feared would happen. And it's actually happened to an iconic film of the 1970s, which won Oscars. It's one of the great crime films of the 1970s. And the studio has made an arbitrary decision to do that. Somebody there went, we're going to cut that bit out. Now, I've got no problem with a crawl at the front of a movie, giving a cultural context to the time in which the movie was made. I do have a big, big problem with censoring it. Now, the converse side of this is that prices for secondhand and new copies, physical copies of the French Connection have got to ridiculous levels because of that censorship. They are selling Blu-rays of the French Connection for $250 US because people want the copy without the censorship. And rightly so, it should be the default setting. It shouldn't be something for which there is a premium. But yeah, this is going to happen increasingly, which is why physical media is important. Physical media is the bookmark that says, this is the original gangster version of this film. This is the one that you want. This is the one that the filmmakers at the time they made it intended. And it's an egregious crime to arbitrarily censor that and release it in multiple formats. There are actually physical copies of it that have that. Every streaming copy of it, pretty much, with a couple of exceptions, has that as well. Yeah, Damien, the cut is wrong. Opening up a can of worms. Censored scene in Indiana Jones. Not aware of it. Yeah, hi, Timothy. Thank God you are so handsome, says Zom. The rat scene from the first Indiana Jones film was now cut. You see, people, I hate this. It's one of the things I hated when George Lucas went and redid the original Star Wars trilogy. Finger painting over old work, taking the guns out of ET, having Greedo shoot first, all that kind of stuff. It's dishonest. Films are a moment in time captured. And just because we have the ability now to change that, it doesn't mean that we should. Luna doesn't have kittens. Luna has been de-sexed. We don't get cats that aren't de-sexed. And one of the things when we got her from the dog shelter was that she was de-sexed at a very young age. It's a slippery slope. Thank you, Ross. Thank you for being part of the live stream, mate. I appreciate that. The arc burning of the rat, that scene is now cut. Yeah, we've got two cats. We've got Luna and we've got Jill. But yeah, like freaks. Yeah, well, if Jilly wants to be part of the videos, I'm happy for Jilly to be part of the videos. Middle-aged kid girl's very protective of our older cat, Jill. and I kind of like that too, to be honest with you. But yeah, the slippery slope, and I think calling it out when it happens is definitely the way to go. It's weird that my copy of the French Connection movies is suddenly perceived as being worth more than it was a month ago, just because it's been sitting on the shelves and because it's a version which doesn't have the censorship. I don't think that an uncensored version of a movie should be a premium product. Yeah, taking smoking cigarettes out of a classic film, that's going to happen too. Metro No Girl says, I'm agreeing with you. Changing films is a terrible crime against history. Absolutely. And the thing is that it's being done now for kind of mild reasons, but there's nothing to say in the future it's not going to be done for political reasons, that it's not going to be done for reasons of propaganda. And that's where the rubber hits the road. There's a possibility that in future, classic cinema and classic movies are going to be weaponized for an ideological viewpoint. And that's incredibly dangerous. And I think it's something for which we should be aware. And I think it's something which we should be very kind of protective against. Different versions of Blade Runner were slightly different, Scott. They were recut by the studio because Blade Runner wasn't a success when it came out. So they recut and reissued. Yeah, it's a dog's breakfast. It's messed up as all hell. But it wasn't done for reasons of censorship. Same thing with the movie Brazil, Terry Gilliam's Brazil. There's different versions of that where the studio tried to fix what they perceived as being problems with it, which weren't actually problems, but the studio at the time was full of coked up idiots. Is someone going to do a revisionist Wizard of Oz? It's been done 3 or 4 times, Dean. There's The Wiz. There's a bunch of other versions of L. Frank Baum's original stories that have been done. It was done in Australia as a rock musical, which is not bad. It's a movie called Oz. So The Wizard of Oz has been done already. But Rurouni Kenshin, is it? They took the major character smoking and replaced him with chewing on a toothpick. That happens in anime a lot. The Americanized version of the Yu-Gi-Oh animes took away a lot of really dark things and kind of re-geared it. And there have been a few YouTube videos about that as well. Wizard of Mars, the Close Encounters got drastically cut too from the original release. Yeah, why is it always people like Spielberg and Lucas doing this shit? Yeah, it's something which we've got to be aware of, and it's the reason why physical media is important. French Connections offered to rent under my YouTube. I'm making money on that, so don't knock it. Yeah, it's Birth of a Nation with the Boy Scouts of America writing at the end. Yeah, it really is dangerous. And the other problem I've got is things like when Netflix edited together Orson Welles' last film, The Other Side of the Wind, which was never put together as a movie edit. And they did it with stakeholders, including Oya Koda, who was Orson Welles' partner at the time. And they put it out on video, and I was really great because I wanted to see this movie. Heard about it for decades, and they suddenly put it out on Netflix. It's still there, but it hasn't got a physical media release. This is Orson Welles' last movie. It's his last great movie, and it is a strikingly good film. I love it, but I want a physical copy of it, and there is no physical copy of it because Netflix aren't releasing it on physical media. But yeah, The Other Side of the Wind is my big bugbear on that. I want a Criterion edition of that. I will pay a premium, which all Criterion movies end up being. You pay a premium if you live in Australia. But a physical copy of The Other Side of the Wind is something I want to see, and I want to have in my collection and to treasure. AI replacing real actors or reconstructing dead actors. They're going to do it inevitably, Dean. I don't like it. I think that there's a nuance to real actors, which is not available at this stage in AI actors. And you've also got that uncanny valley thing, which is still a problem with AI constructed actors. I think recasting is the way to go, and you can get new interpretations, and you get new people bringing their skills and training and experience and life experience to iconic characters. I've got no problems with recasting. I've got a problem with zombie actors made by AI. I think it's disrespectful to the original actor, even if you get the family's permission on a dead actor to do this stuff. I still think it's disrespectful, and yes, it may be a cash cow for the families of these actors. I acknowledge the financial pressures that are there, but for me, I'd rather recasting. James Bond's been doing it since 1969, and I have no problem with that. But zombie actors and AI actors, inevitably, it's going to happen. But I think that when that does happen, the value added and the real premium product is going to be a movie that has all real actors in it. That's going to be a movie that people will lean toward because it doesn't have fake actors in it. It's going to be an amusing thing for a while, and inevitably there'll be entire movies created by AI. But AI isn't what we think AI is. AI is just arranging very large data sets in a way that an algorithm thinks is a narrative. What's the P word, Lee? No. Yeah, personally, Tim says, personally hate birth animation, but don't censor it. Want it out there, so we have to face what we did. Absolutely. And contextualizing problematic films is important. It's part of what I do on the channel. But censoring them or removing them, I don't think that should happen. Yeah, can't fathom an AI version of Humphrey Bogart doing Casablanca. You won't, because there are nuances, particularly in Casablanca, which I just got the 4K of. I haven't watched it yet. There are aspects of the acting by everybody in that movie that is not going to be there with an AI. Casablanca starring Ronald Reagan, yeah, and Anne Sheridan, I think it was. They didn't know what they had with Casablanca. They were writing the script on the hop while it was being produced. Casablanca was lightning in a bottle for so many reasons. Will the Fast franchise bring back Paul Walker? They did. They did some posthumous stuff with Paul Walker to get him out of the character arc and to get him out of the franchise, where they got his brother and they face mapped it and things like that. They did that to close that part of it. I think that's a way of doing it. If an actor dies in a large franchise like the Fast and Furious movies, I think they did the right thing by finding a way to get that character to leave the narrative, honoring the original actor, doing a little bit of CG to get rid of the stuff that they hadn't quite filmed, respecting him, memorializing him, but not perpetuating him. Do I put peanut beard butter or anything on it? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just comb it and brush it. It gets a bit random and at times, but yeah, the beard's looking great. TV series of Sweeney is Battle Royale, so it can't be shown pre-Watershed. So it can be shown pre-Watershed. Yeah, it's a shame. I like the TV series of Sweeney. It was really ballsy and gutsy. And the other thing that probably pissed off a lot of people, working class coppers going up against the toffs in the hierarchies above them. There's that kind of class warfare thing that I really liked in the Sweeney. Tammy doesn't like it or understand why you're such a fan of Casablanca. I like Casablanca. I like the redemption arc of a bastard in Casablanca, but some people don't like it for some reason, but I do. And again, fighting Nazis, and the scene where they're all singing La Marseillaise, and most of the people singing it are people who fled the Nazi regime. The actors are actually people who fled the Nazis, and this is made in 1942. So nobody knew how the war would end. And so they're standing up and with their hearts in their sleeves and singing defiance against the Nazi regime that was in existence then. That's movie magic, and that's movies being made at just that kind of crossroads of history. And I love it for that. Yeah, Oliver Reed, because he died during production of Gladiator. Yeah. Yeah, I like the Maltese Falcon as well, Donnie Pass Whiskey. John Huston working with Bogart was just magic. And Sam Spade's much more of a bastard than um, Humphrey Bogart was in Casablanca playing Rick. And yeah, and also those tight sets, that ensemble with Sidney Greenstreet and Mary Astor and Peter Lorre. Cas- Maltese Falcon I also have on 4K. I've got Casablanca and Maltese Falcon on 4K. Looking forward to watching those again. No, I didn't miss that comment. Other people were answering that one, middle-aged geek girl. Yeah, I said to her, "You got to watch Casablanca," and she didn't enjoy it. And you've got to accept that not everyone's going to love, particularly people you love and live with and are married to, are going to love the same movies as you. You've really got to kind of move past that and go, okay, you didn't like it, fair enough. Yeah, Peter Lorre was a fine actor. There's a movie that Imprint put out called The Face Behind the Mask. Let me just look it up. Which is a small movie that Peter Lorre did in the 1941. I'll post the Wikipedia link to it. But Imprint put this out as one of their videos. And it's a really good Peter Lorre movie that nobody knows about. You do have a lot of great traits, middle-aged geek girl, and I love you for all of them. But yeah, The Face Behind the Mask is something really great. There are films that Heather doesn't like that you do, David. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen. But we kind of accept that. I wanted to introduce her to the movie. She didn't like it. I've shown her a whole bunch of films she did like. And maybe middle-aged geek girl wants to put in the chat what those movies are. Yeah, the original Man Who Knew Too Much. Absolutely. There's just Mad Love. Peter Lorre. Absolutely, Damien. Mad Love. Peter Lorre is brilliant. Mad Love is a crazy movie. Gonna have to rewatch that. There may well be one. Could you write down Mad Love for me, middle-aged geek girl? Because I think I want to do it on the channel. Yeah, Peter Lorre in M was probably his first great role with Fritz Lang. There was a remake in the 1950s done by Joseph Losey, which is worth watching, but it's not anywhere near as good as the original M. But Peter Lorre in M is something really, really striking. To Have and Have Not, if you like Casablanca, yeah, absolutely. Weird thing about To Have and Have Not is that Lauren Bacall's singing voice was dug by a young Andy Williams. Yeah, Casablanca and Maltese Falcon were two films that George Raft turned down the lead role and Bogart benefited. Yeah, it was David Wayne in the remake, yeah. Cross the Pacific is another good one with Humphrey Bogart, Sidney Greenstreet, and Mary Astor in it, yeah. And there's another good one that Bogart was in called Action in the North Atlantic about merchant navy ships going across to Britain and back, which is worth checking out. Striving Dwellers. You have to look back at the chat. There's a lot of stuff that we've talked about so far. And strange actors, Peter Lorre and Nicolas Cage. Yeah, but Peter Lorre, I think, is Nicolas Cage is there. Peter Lorre's about there. Yeah, George Raft didn't want to work hard as an actor. He wanted to be a star, but he didn't want to do the hard yards that Bogart was willing to do. And I think that shows that there are actors who tend to sit on the handlebars, and there are actors who are there pedaling. Tarantino spends his entire career writing scene as cool as the Bogart call scene. involving the horse race analogy. I think Tarantino has written some great scenes. The scene at the start of Inglourious Bastards, where the Christoph Waltz character is talking to the farmer, is right up there. That is a great scene. It's got beautiful escalation. It's got a great build. It's got Tarantino can write good dialogue. It doesn't have to be in the same realm as the dialogue in To Have and Have Not. But there are any number of dialogue scenes in Tarantino's movies which are worthwhile and really land the what's necessary for that particular film. Brad Dourif, interesting actor. I liked him in Lynch's Dune. He was really great in that in the small scenes. Brad Dourif, I like a lot. There's good classic Weimar cinema. Absolutely, yeah. Ralph's had a good death scene in Some Like It Hot. Yeah, he did. Laurie Karloff and Cheney setting themselves up in an episode of Roof 66. I've seen that episode, Damien. That was great too. Optimistic, pessimistic, or cautious about The Dial of Destiny. We've already talked about that. I don't think it's a necessary film. Somebody said on the chat that the projections of the box office were pretty dismal. We're going to see it in cinemas, but I'm not optimistic about that. Yeah, but no, M's definitely a sound film. The Raven, I like. Yeah, Brad Dourif and Wise Blood, absolutely. But yeah, no, I don't like everything else. I think that here's another thing that pisses me off. I'll just talk about 50s, 70s, 80s, right? Absolutely. Here's another thing that pisses me off about certain people. By the way, if anybody wants to leave a super chat, that's available there too. There are a certain kind of movie reviewers who usually work for large organizations who act as if they've never seen a bad film. They're there basically as shills for movie studios. So they get access to interviewing stars and things like that. I find that incredibly dishonest. I think that they're at the service of the studios rather than at the service of the audience. And so, inevitably, when The Dial of Destiny is about to land, there are going to be all of these bottom feeders interviewing Harrison Ford, interviewing Phoebe Waller-Bridge, interviewing other people who are going to try to puff up Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, as they have with hundreds of other forgettable films. And that kind of stuff cheeses me off because A, they get paid a lot more than I do. B, they're doing a disservice to cinema. And C, they are assholes. Peter Lorre had a back injury, which he self-medicated with heroin. So he had an addiction problem. And that curtailed his career. Absolutely, M was a great movie. It wasn't alcohol with Peter Lorre. It was an opium addiction, I think it was at the time. Timothy. Yeah. Well, yeah, he was doing pain management at a time where pain management was a very rudimentary thing. These days, there are nuanced ways of managing pain. Now, of course, there is that fentanyl addiction problem, particularly in the United States, which was fed into by a very unscrupulous pharmaceutical company. Currently mentally having a fever dream fantasy about Laurie playing Renfield in a Dracula movie. Yeah, absolutely, Timothy. OxyContin. But there are means of pain management now which are a lot less brutal. And they're starting to come in. There are also people are starting to learn that there are, in certain circumstances, electrodes that can be implanted for pain management, which stimulate or de-stimulate nerve endings. So there's a new bit of science going into that. But yeah, it's a shame because Peter Lorre was an crazily gifted actor who, because of pain management, which I'm not going to knock anyone for. I mean, addiction is a disease, and yeah. Who are the Sacklers? Don't know them. But yeah, I love Peter Lorre for the work that he did, and again, that kind of medical mishap is a horrible thing. Okay, but yeah, let's see what we've got on the list. I've done what we've got on the list. Are there any Q and A's? Virgo came from a very well-to-do family in his early 30 career as typecast as upper-class twits. Staged in the screen success the petrified followers turned his career. Absolutely did. Yeah, I saw the Terminal Man. Terminal Man is a cautionary tale about pain and other management. But I think there are ethical guidelines in place now. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in the brain. From what I understand from the research being done, the pain management is done where the nerve endings are. So they send different signals to the brain. So it's not a matter of the brain having wires in it, but localized implants at the site of the injury or at the site of the trauma, which kind of don't send the pain signals to the brain. I mean, it's got to be done subtly because, of course, if there's extra damage, the brain needs to know about that. But they're working on that as a way of avoiding the addiction problems with pain management. Okay, went to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. I saw it in the cinemas when it came out. Yeah, deadly. It was morphine. That's what it was. It wasn't opium or heroin. It was morphine. Movie that makes me laugh. There are a bunch of them. Step Brothers is good. I like Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. That one always makes me laugh. Blazing Saddles is always going to make me laugh. Some Like It Hot is great as well. Monsieur Hulot's Holiday with Jacques Tati. Any of the Jacques Tati movies will make me laugh as well. But yeah, there are so many great comedies. And comedy is probably the most subjective of movie genres. There are things that are going to make some people laugh. Some people like gross out comedies. I do too. Things like Death in Brunswick is a gross out comedy. There's an incredible scene in a graveyard in Death in Brunswick, which is outrageously beautiful with John Clark and Sam Neill. Just the best. But yeah, there are just so many. Yeah, and again, there are comedies that other people like that leave me a bit meh, but I'm probably not the intended audience for those comedies. But yeah, a good comedy is something to treasure and have a copy of. Yeah, I like Spinal Tap because Spinal Tap mocked the self-importance of rock groups, and I kind of like that because, particularly in the past, music stars got away with all sorts of shit, and Spinal Tap and the guys who did that were really aware of that and really drilled down into that in a wonderful way. No, I don't think Blazing Saddles will ever be cut because not at least not while Mel Brooks was alive because he would get up out of his chair and kick the fuck out of anybody who tried that. Weekend at Bernie's. I did Weekend at Bernie's for the channel. I actually got a copy of Weekend at Bernie's, which was re-released by Viavision recently on Blu-ray here in Australia. Weekend at Bernie's is fun. Yeah, and the lovely thing about Blazing Saddles too is there are tons and tons of references to things like Madeline Kahn's Lily von Stupp being a parody of Marlene Dietrich, and her inability to really sing is great. And the Cole Porter references in there, the Western references, having Frankie Lane singing the theme song. It's incredible fun, and it's incredibly nuanced in its pop cultural references. Yep, you do it for Randolph Scott. And the Renowned Westerns have just got a Criterion release. All the Westerns that Randolph Scott did with Bud Bedico now have a Criterion release, which is kind of impressive. Yeah, but then Hedy Lamarr helped invent Bluetooth. Striving to Balance, thank you very much. I appreciate the donation to the channel and the super chat. It really does help things out there. Do you have any other questions, Striving to Balance? Because you've donated, I'll give you a front row seat here. If there's any other questions you want to ask. Blazing Saddles, talk about the N word. Yeah, I mean, you got to remember that Richard Pryor was one of the screenwriters on Blazing Saddles. He agreed with that. The weird thing is they've got him in to write the black stuff for Black Bart, but he wanted to write Mongo and other characters. But he was definitely on board with that. Clapton and Tooting Bec are both tube stations, hence Nigel Tufnell Park tube station. Absolutely. Harvey Korman as Hedley Lamar. Absolutely. Harvey Korman, also in High Anxiety, was willing to mock himself brutally, and really, he was one of those actors who would go there, and he did. Dude, I love you so much. You have many different opinions I do, and you love cinema and movies so much. And you know the difference. I just wanted to know, appreciate what you're doing. Thank you, Striving to Balance. It means a lot to me. There are times when, if you don't get that kind of feedback, you don't get any kind of feedback from the audience, your opinions can take you down a kind of weird path, and you can lose audience by that. So any kind of feedback and any kind of appreciation and acknowledgement helps me keep the channel what we all want it to be. And so I really do appreciate that. Yeah, all the characters named Johnson, Howard Johnson, Van Johnson, Gabby Johnson. Yeah, it's really weird, but it's great fun. Blazing Saddles, and I think that's a model that a lot of comedies should go for, as well as having those layerings of subtext and having those layerings of character is something that modern comedies could do more of. I think that there's possibilities there in the comedy realm where that subtext is really important. Must take Mary for a walk before it gets dark. Cheers, mate. Cheers, Solar. Zomb, thank you, mate. And again, I appreciate everything you've done to help me with the YouTube and with the podcast, mate. We really should catch up on Zoom or something at some stage. Ben Johnson, the real cowboy. Yeah, Ben Johnson got that Oscar for the Last Picture Show for like 6 minutes of work and crazy stuff. Your chess piece scene is great. Legend of the Poor is animated remake of Blazing Saddles. It's funny. Okay, I'll check that. Can you write that down? Legend of the Poor, please, middle-aged geek girl. But yeah, I can rewatch Blazing Saddles tons of times. And the bit where he's riding across the desert with the music going, and then rides past Count Basie's orchestra in the desert. That kind of thing. And breaking the fourth wall the way the movie does at the end, which is, why would you need to make Blazing Saddles now? There are transgressive comedies still being made, and we kind of tend to forget that when we go, this movie couldn't be made now. Doesn't have to be, it's been made already. But transgressive comedies are being made and will continue to be made. Some of them turn up on streaming services because big studios aren't going to make a 10-pole movie out of a comedy these days. But there are also streaming series, things like Deadlock, which I mentioned before. Really transgressive. It's full of the C word. It's really typically Australian humour. Kate McCartney and Kate McLennan are national treasures as far as comedy is concerned. And they do so much wonderful work. And to see them being elevated to an international level is really great. Actually prefer Young Frankenstein to Blazing Saddles. Absolutely, that's perfectly valid. Donna Pass Whiskey says, just chipped in on Patreon. Thank you, Donna Pass Whiskey. I appreciate that too. Tropic Thunder, yeah, Tropic Thunder. It's got that problematic Robert Downey Jr. one, but that's more a mockery of method acting. So I've got a little bit of leniency there, and also self-important actors again. I think that mocking those is a valid form of expression. And the character is mocked by the black characters in Tropic Thunder as well. Some Americans will find Deadlock a tad shocking. Good. I think Americans have got a real trigger about the C word. And those people should put on their big girl pants and just accept the fact that it's part of the vernacular. And it's a word which has only been demonized in the last 200 years, even though it's a word that has been around for well over 1,000 years. Yeah, middle-aged geek girl, put up a link to your Amazon page where your wonderful notebooks. This is one of her notebooks, which I bought. In the inside, it's a blank notebook for you to use, but she made a cover of it, and I'm going to just. That's one of her notebooks, which she created and designed, and she has a Amazon page where they're sold, and they're not too expensive, but yeah, she's doing some really interesting things in her creative things. Tropic Thunder is how Ben Stiller did Blazing Saddles in the aughts. Absolutely, yeah. Who hasn't stampeded cattle through the Vatican at some time or other? I wanted to. I think that the Vatican is one of those places where if I was visiting there, I would long to have a bazooka because there's so many egregious things come out of that place. Thank you, Timothy. So, middle-aged geek girl, you want to put up a link in the chat to your wonderfulness? So we're going to get her to do that. And having issues with the link for US again, says middle-aged geek girl. I'll put it in the description if we can't get it up before the end of the live stream. But yeah, by the way, this is the movie that I still. No, it is almost 9 a.m. here, Dean. Destroying all that artwork would be a tragedy. Absolutely. Middle-aged geek girl does wonderful artwork. Still happy I got this, a decent copy of Mad Monster Party, which Umbrella have just put out. It's fantastic. And I love the fact that they have it's fixed up. The American version that came out had really crap. It was very muddy looking, but they did a jig on it, and it worked out really well. Okay, yeah, everything's dropped off her Amazon channel, but I will post a link when everything's fixed up. And I want to promote Sal's work because she works really hard on the graphic designs on these things, and they definitely deserve a bit of love. Yeah, Mad Monster Party. It is a great copy of it. I'm crazily happy that that's coming out. Here we go. There's the Amazon link, and people can buy copies of all of her notebooks and things like that. Let me click on the link myself. Came up. So that's fine, middle-aged geek girl, and she works really hard. She's learning graphic design herself. She's learning how to use the software and to get her head around all of the design aspects, and she's doing fantastic stuff. Timothy says, got to move my region-free Blu-ray player to my new place in Jersey City. Absolutely, you need the region-free. I don't know that there's region locking on that Mad Monster Party. I hear from some people there isn't, but I think a region free Blu-ray player. Yep, the link is definitely working, Damien. So yeah. How does the studio upscale an old movie to 4K? They don't actually need to upscale because old movies are on film, and the resolution of a studio, an original print of a film, is at slightly more than 4K resolution natively. So if you get the original film on a decent copy, it's at 4K natively. When it's projected on a screen in a cinema, that is a 4K image on a 70 or 35 millimeter print. So upscaling doesn't take much effort at all to 4K. If you want to go 8K, you'd have to upscale a lot, but 4K is the sweet spot for original prints of movies to be transferred onto physical media. Donna Pass, yeah, we had late night monster hosts. We had Deadly Ernest, who was really cool. And the weird thing is that Sydney had a Deadly Ernest, who was very cool. Melbourne had a different Deadly Ernest, and Adelaide had a third one because in the 1960s, the different channels on the network weren't interlinked. Going to bring Seaface Notebook to my administrative meetings. 22 minutes, you might want to talk to HR about that before you do. 6K, yeah, Timothy. There's a lot of great YouTube channels covering film technical. There are a lot of people doing fantastic work, and the nice thing is that in from a creative viewpoint, we're not competing with each other. Each one's got a slightly different viewpoint, and we talk to each other on the chat and on the comments on our different channels. And I mean, Retro Nerd Girl, who's been on the chat here, has her own channel where she does her own thing, and we encourage each other and support each other. And I think that's the way to go with this kind of stuff. Competition will never be as strong as cooperation. 15% equipment, 80K. IMAX decaf is out of stock. See you, Damien. Have a good day, mate, and take care. And again, thanks for supporting the channel the way you do. And it's almost time. It's time to finish off this live stream. Deadly Ernest started in Perth, then the idea went around Australia. Yeah, Timothy, pleasant surprise how much cooperation, how much little competition there is online. Stream developers, Studio Binder's site is great. Studio Binder does some really fantastic YouTube videos about cinema. Thank you, Friday. Try Amazon in your country. Look up books, then Mag Designs. You should find it. Yeah, thanks, Timothy, and hi to Tammy as well. And thanks for being part of this. Do we have any last questions or any last things people want to say before I go and get myself some breakfast? Yeah, actually, Timothy, I tried to make it so that it was at a convenient time for people this time. Australia, thanks for doing a live stream. Loving you from Birmingham, Alabama. South loves you, man. Thank you. And I've been to South. I actually went to Louisville once, and people there were wonderful and really accommodating, really nice people. I like the South, though you guys, of course, have the problems that we all know about. Phil says, I'll get kitchen to help them prepare din-dins. See you, Lee, and enjoy your dinner. Toby Hines, keep the link. It will be up again. What happened to Coffee? What was it called? You have a good week too. 5min42. Chris, thank you. I appreciate that, and thanks a lot, Franny, as well. And Dean, yeah, I'm not sure what I have for breakfast, but I'm getting bloody hungry. Catherine, absolutely. I'm going to try to do these ones on Mondays because it seems to be a sweet spot for live streaming. But anyway, that's it for this time around. Thanks a lot for watching. Scott, thank you very much too. And everyone have a good week, and I will catch you on the other videos. Catch you later.